several activists scaled the Roebling Suspension Bridge, which is this huge bridge that crosses the Ohio River. They dropped this huge banner that says P&G Stop Forest Destruction on it. It was definitely one of the movement's more escalated actions, and kind of the reason that they are trying to escalate more is because P&G has failed to take adequate action.
Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the RAN Wrap-Up, Rainforest Action Network's look at the good, the bad, and the ugly in news from around the world affecting the climate and all those that depend on it. As always, we're taking a look this week at the issues that will ultimately affect all of us, what we can do about it, and what we are doing about it here at Rainforest Action Network. It has been a very busy couple of weeks here at RAN since we last spoke, but it's also been a very chaotic and devastating couple of weeks around the world. Right, from flooding and earthquakes to political upheaval to all-out war. And while I'm under no illusion that this small little YouTube channel can change a lot of that, I do want to say that I hope if you or your loved ones or your communities are being impacted in any way, I hope that you are able to find some semblance of safety or support or solidarity or something that will help you keep moving one foot in front of the other. And please know that we here at RAN are thinking of you. And for those who are not impacted, this is an important time to read, to listen, to learn, to show up, to support, to donate, to protest, to stand up. But please don't turn away. So with all of that said, let's take a look at some good stuff that happened since episode 5 came out. At the beginning of October, about 1,200 high-level insurance executives got together in Colorado Springs to talk about insurance stuff, I guess? I don't really know. They describe it as the, quote, the premier marketplace meeting for top-tier broker executives in the commercial property / casualty industry, as well as carriers and other strategic partners. And if you're anything like me, you know that means only one thing, a good time. I'm sure things are getting wild. But for activists from groups like Green Latinos, Mothers Out Front Colorado, 350 Colorado, and of course, Rainforest Action Network, it's an opportunity to protest them all in one place. So thanks for making it easy for us, Insurance Leadership Forum. Much appreciated. Of course, we had to crash the party, right? As RAND does, to hold insurance providers accountable for their role in insuring fossil fuels. You know what? Let's just take a look at the video. Roll the video.
Opening line set up here. I had some good lines. Hey, yeah, I'm over here. Let's go.
Fossil fuels.
Not on the program.
Including methane gas.
Not on the program.
Methane gas is not an answer.
I got the microphone.
Amazing work, everyone. I love to see it. RAN also made headlines recently with our pressure campaign on the Security and Exchange Commission, or the SEC. What in the hell is the SEC? That's a great question. The SEC is basically a federal agency that makes sure the stock markets operate fairly and orderly to allow safe trading between buyers and sellers. It's basically what allows corporations to trade stock in the United States. So, yeah, capitalism, which includes JBS, which is just this little company that happens to be the largest meatpacking company in the world. They are a Brazilian company who buys both grain for livestock feed that was grown in, as well as cows that were grazed in the Amazon. So I assume you see where this is going. From 2019 to 2020, Brazilian prosecutors found that 17% of the cows bought by JBS in the Amazon rainforest were grazed on illegally deforested areas, and that's only what those prosecutors actually found. So, a coalition of groups, including RAN, is pushing the SEC to not allow JBS, a lot of letters going on here, to be traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And if that push is successful, it would be a really big blow to JBS. So fingers crossed. Okay, we've been hyping up the protests against Procter & Gamble a bunch on here. And instead of me telling you all about it, let's talk to our social media strategist, Kalyxa. As someone that really holds most of the reins of our social media, she really has one of the best views from that 10,000 foot, view looking down at all that's happened over the years, up until this week. So let's jump into our conversation with her. Hello, Kalyxa. Thanks so much for being here with us. Can you tell us who you are and what do you do at RAN?
Yeah, I'm Kalyxa, she, her pronouns. I work as a social media strategist at RAN. So all the tweets and Instagram posts and TikToks that you see is all me.
Super cool. And you're part of the digital team, is that right?
Yes.
I think people might be surprised to think that an organization has a whole digital team. What is the digital team? What's the point of a digital team?
We hold all of the engagement with online and digital supporters. So that looks like social media, blogs, emails, infographics, videos, all that fun stuff. And it's kind of similar to the communications team in that we kind of help craft the public image of RAN and collaborate on messaging, but we actually have different audiences. So we'll appeal a little bit more to the general public rather than press or journalists. So just trying to make the issues around the climate movement a little bit more accessible, easier to understand, and just fire people up about the issues, connect them to opportunities for actions, whether that's getting involved in their local environmental movement or getting involved digitally through petitions, emails, etc.
I would like to think that the digital team is the best team at RAN, but I could be a little biased. But so we on the show, we've been talking to a lot of people about Procter & Gamble campaign. So we know a little bit about why we protest against Procter & Gamble. And we've also talked a lot about the strategies that we are using in our campaign. But can you tell us a little bit about some of the tactics, the tactical highlights from the last couple years that stood out to you?
Yeah, probably the biggest highlight for me was the May Day actions. And May Day is this historically a day to celebrate radical labor movements. So it was really cool. We had this coalition of local labor groups from Cincinnati. We also had some local environmental activists, and we actually were able to invite a delegation of indigenous forest defenders from Sumatra, where they're fighting some of P&G's suppliers who are threatening their forests. So it was just a really beautiful show of solidarity between all of these different groups. And we marched from Cincinnati City Hall all the way to Procter & Gamble headquarters. We had some great speeches, we had some chants, and it was just a really powerful way to get the attention of people inside the building. But we've also done some other actions. We did a road blockade, which was actually one of the first P&G actions that I've been to with RAN. There's this huge road that goes through P&G campus because they have a whole campus. So we blockaded that. We erected this huge banner. It was a 70-foot banner that read Code Red with a little image of an earth on fire. And we also erected these two big tripods where we had a big banner strung between them. And we had two activists climb those tripods, and they didn't get down until they were arrested. So we held space there. We really made a big bang as one of our first actions at P&G headquarters. So yeah, lots of great actions. And we've just been trying to think of ways to continue to get P&G's attention and make our demands heard.
I saw that one also where people climbed the flagpoles outside. What was that about?
That was another action where we kind of rallied again at P&G headquarters, but in the meantime, while we were all chanting and doing speeches and all that, we had two activists who climbed these two big flagpoles that they have right outside of their headquarters. From there, they dropped this big banner that says P&G, Stop Deforestation and Human Rights Abuses. It was huge, and it was such a big moment. So yeah, that was a really cool action too.
And then a couple weeks ago on October 4th, some activists decided to even take it a step farther. Can you talk a little bit about what happened then?
So several activists scaled the Roebling Suspension Bridge, which is this huge bridge that crosses the Ohio River. And it goes from Cincinnati to Covington, Kentucky. And they dropped this huge banner that says P&G stop forest destruction on it. And it was just a really big moment from a media perspective. It got a ton of buzz, a ton of media hits, and it was just like a really impressive action to spread far and wide on social media as well. So it was definitely one of the movement's more escalated actions, and kind of the reason that they are trying to escalate more is because P&G has failed to take adequate action on what their suppliers are doing, on holding their suppliers accountable. RAND's research team actually has drawn connections between P&G and harmful palm oil and pulp suppliers in Sumatra and East Kalimantan, including palm oil suppliers who are operating illegally within the Rawa Singkil Wildlife Reserve. So it's this extremely biodiverse region in the Losar ecosystem. And it's also known as the orangutan capital of the world because it has the highest recorded number of orangutans in one habitat. So it's really important to protect it. And P&G has refused to hold those suppliers accountable, even though they have a ton of money. They're a multi-billion-dollar company and they have a ton of influence. If they suspend these suppliers, then it will send that message that they do not condone human rights abuses or deforestation, but they fail to take adequate action. So we're looking for ways to continue pressuring them and make them hear our demands.
We talked with Laurel Sutherland from the comms team, the communications team, a couple of weeks back about the Losar ecosystem, and he's got some really amazing stories from there. So if people are interested, check out our interview with him in episode 3, maybe, or maybe it was 4, I can't remember, but the link is down in the show notes. So on October 10th, Procter Gamble held their AGM, their annual shareholders meeting. Can you tell us like how people protested against that, like leading up to it, but also what it was like to be at that particular event?
To start off, we had a ton of support from our online supporters. So people like you who are watching this video, we had over 10,000 emails sent to P&G executives. Also, over this year, we've been sending postcards to board members and the CEO. The AGM was really powerful. We brought together local activists with the Blackbird Collective. We had some RAND folks come into town, and we also had some just local Cincinnatians who have been interested in the issue and want to speak up against this huge company that's headquartered in their city. So we got nearly 50 people out to the headquarters. We had a ton of banners. We had some awesome speeches. We also actually were joined by 2 P&G descendants. So they were the great-great-granddaughters of William Procter, one of the founders of Procter Gamble. And at the same time, several other descendants were actually interviewing with WCPO, which is a local news station here in Cincinnati. And they discussed how they're campaigning against Procter & Gamble board members for their lack of action when it comes to addressing the deforestation and the human rights abuses in their supply chains.
I think we often talk about protests being against something, but I feel like these protests are also for something, in particular like communities around the world. Can you talk a little bit about like who the protests were for? Just
through our research, we know that there's at least 23 indigenous communities in Sumatra who are actively being threatened by P&G's primary palm oil supplier, Royal Golden Eagle. That's this huge agribusiness company that's operating in Indonesia. And they've been linked to land grabbing, forest destruction, and also criminalization of community members who are trying to defend their land and their livelihoods. And it's not just in Indonesia either. It's also in Canada, just north of us. The boreal forest is being threatened by P&G's pulp suppliers to make like literally toilet paper. So there's also indigenous communities there that have been fighting to keep those forests standing. And just generally, we all rely on forests. So it also affects us because forests are really, really critical stores of carbon. So all those carbon emissions that are exacerbating the climate crisis, if we cut down our forests, there's no way for the earth to stabilize the climate. So we desperately need to keep these forests standing, not just for climate change purposes, but also because there are entire communities that rely on the forest for food and medicine and their life.
Kalyxa, thanks so much for joining us and not just bringing the stories to the episode, but also making sure these stories get heard throughout our social media channels and bringing it to the people around the world. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Big thanks to Kalyxa for all their hard work behind the scenes, keeping us up to date on our social media platforms, which in turn keeps you up to date with what's going on with RAN and the world. So Kalyxa, we appreciate you. If it wasn't for you, people wouldn't know what in the hell was going on. So if you'd like to get more involved in taking action or getting more info, head on over to our webpage at ran.org. That's RAN.org, where you can join us in using people power to challenge business as usual. And why would you want to do that? Because we win.